This is Modern Photo Solutions, helping you find modern solutions for life's photographic journey. Taking you from photo overwhelm to photo fabulous in just a few taps. Your story matters. It's time to start telling it. Hey everyone, welcome to Modern Photo Solutions. I'm Steph Clay and I am just back from vacation where we spent lots of quality time together as a family and made lots of memories. We went to Florida with the primary purpose of visiting my daughter's mission, which was such a wonderful and sweet experience. Really, I can't even put into words the feelings and the experiences that we were able to have there. I shared a bit about it on Instagram, so you can check it out there. If you're not on Instagram, you can still look at it through a web browser by going to instagram.com/modern photo solutions if you want to look at some of my pages from that vacation. I also posted on Instagram a very short tutorial for how I get white lines and collages to add to Project Life. So if that's something that you want to look at, you'll want to do that as well on Instagram. So while we were in Florida, of course, I cannot go to Florida without going to a Disney World. So we did that for a few days as well. And then our last stop was in the Tampa Bay Clearwater area. And it was a really good time. It was one of the longest family vacations we've been on, which is always interesting when you're in small area together for long periods of time and you're spending 24/7 with all of your family members. It really tests everyone's patience, but we did fairly well overall, and we did really make a lot of great memories, and I can't wait to get everything documented and get it printed in a book. I am recording this right now on what is supposed to be the hottest day of the year in Arizona so far. I've heard people talking about 122 today. That's what they're saying it's supposed to be. But all of my weather apps are saying that it's going to be 117 today. I am not too sure if 117 feels any different than 122. I haven't been in 122 yet. I have done 117, but at that point, it's all just hot, I think. Of course, that is when our air conditioning chooses to go out. So I'm waiting, not so patiently, for a repair person to come later this afternoon and repair the AC unit. We will be glad to be able to cool our house down. Once again, it is really hot. But I do love living here. And I do love the heat, I have to say. I would take 122 over snow any day of the week. And I would take 122 over being back in Seattle in the rain for a winter. Yeah. Okay, before my vacation, I had the opportunity to Skype with Megan Whitney, who won a consultation with me, and we went over a few of her challenges right now, and I helped her come up with a few solutions. But she also shared with me some of her successes that she's having, which she is having a lot, and that's really wonderful. It was fun to see and hear. And she also shared some of her history and why documenting is so important to her. And I loved everything that she was saying so much that I asked her if I could go ahead and hit record and get some of this for all of you as well. And so we did, and I am really excited and I'm happy to be able to share that with you. Here is a little clip from my conversation with Megan. Hey Megan, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So we did this little, you won a prize to be able to talk to me. I guess that sounds really bad. You won a prize to talk to me. You won a consultation is what you won. And so we got together so that we could chat about what you're doing and where you need some help and maybe things that you can do different. But you're doing a lot of things. And that's what's super exciting to me because I really am not sure that I've helped you at all.
It's Probably because I've been listening to you for too long.
You're good at implementing then, right?
I try.
Okay, so I wanted to be able to just hit record really quick and share with everybody because you have a different story for sure for your history with your own photos from your childhood. But then you're doing a lot of really fun things with your kids' photos too. And so I wanted to be able to share all of that. Let's talk a little bit about your photos. How many photos do you have from your childhood?
Me growing up, there aren't many that I have access to. I have like a yearly photo through when I was 18, and then maybe birthday photos thrown in here and there, and maybe just like a couple other random photos, not very many at all.
And so you recently had an experience where your cousin shared a photo with you.
Yeah, my grandpa just died, so they're going through all the photos just of all the years of history and of the cousins together and everything. And she sent a picture to me, and I was like, wow, I've never seen like my full body at that age. I think I only have my face at that age. Like, and when I saw it, my heart like stopped. I started crying, and I'm like, oh, that's my daughter right there, standing there. Like, she looks exactly like me. That's really cool that I can like finally see my kids and myself, like see myself that age when I just never have.
Yeah, and one of the reasons you talked about one of the reasons that you haven't seen those photos is because your parents shot in slide film, right?
Yeah,
And
a lot of slide and then random iterations of other cameras too.
And so there are pictures out there, you said, but they're just in a slide format.
Yeah, they could be, or like, I mean, I'm the fourth child, so I don't know how many, like, if my mom was discouraged by the slide film by then, that there might just be less of me. So
right, and so it would be interesting to get all of those scanned in, right? Because they're developed.
Mm-hmm.
They're just
I think so.
somewhere. Yeah. Okay. And this reminded me a little bit, I think, of where we are and what our children are facing right now with the digital format of photos and not having things accessible for them to look at in a format that's easy for them to look at. It's the risk we run, I think, because photos aren't being printed and they aren't accessible for our kids. And so how important it is for us to be able to give access to our kids in a way that they can be able to look at the photos. And I was sharing with you about my 10-year-old and how I had set up Google Photos for her so that she could go through and see all of her photos from her whole life and how that was such a great experience for her. And so your goals are to help to have your kids see their photos, right?
Yeah. Here's like a random little memory that you'll probably love, but we were listening to Moana because that's the soundtrack of our lives right now. And my son was like, what does mischievous mean? I'm like, mischievous. That's like you as a toddler is mischievous. And he thought that that was a bad thing. And I was like, no, it's not a bad thing at all. It's absolutely hilarious. So I went onto the computer with all of the unprinted photos, and I found like a little picture of him when he was like 1 or 2, and he found like a half sliced bread on the counter, and he just grabbed like this whole loaf of bread and like was just like walking into the room and eating it and I'm like, you're eating an entire loaf of bread. That is absolutely hilarious. And so now he like associates that with mischievous, not as a bad thing, just as a funny thing. But he didn't even know those pictures existed until I told him, and now he tells everyone that story.
I do love that. That's so cute. So you're doing a lot to try and make sure that your kids know these stories. Let's share with our listeners a little bit about all of the different things that you're doing. You have the My Social book.
Yeah. So one night as I was, it was a couple years ago, as I was on Facebook, I saw like a mysocialbook.com advertisement for their book, and through Facebook, I started with Facebook when it was a baby in 2004. That was my freshman year of college when they opened it for college students. And so I've had it my whole adult life, really. So all of my memories are in there. And because we moved across the country before we had kids from all my family, I've been, posting up the stories about the kids, posting the little quotes of the kids, posting the little pictures of all the little silly things that they do. So when I saw that ad, it slurped up my entire Facebook timeline with all those quotes, with all of the memories, with all of the pictures, even with all like the conversations I've had with my friends on Facebook. It slurped them all up and created a book that now I'm like holding like the history of 10 years in my hand. which is pretty cool.
It is really cool. And your kids look at that often, you said.
Yeah, they love looking at it, and they love like the little random memories. Every once in a while, we'll just like go through it and just like write down or just like read all those little random memories that we have together, and all the cute things that they did, all the silly things that they've said, all of those little funny things that would just be completely lost otherwise.
Yeah, I love that. And then you have some other bigger projects that you're working on, digital scrapbooking, and then through the Project Life app as well.
Yeah, I started digital scrapbooking in about 2008, so I was still a newlywed. It was before any of my kids were born. So I've had it the whole time that they've been born, but I just have a lot of like hiccups in my process. Every time I've been pregnant, I don't scrap for months because I just can't. And so there's a lot of holes in that, but I still love it. And I've been doing the app, especially starting, I guess really a year ago is when I really started. And I have like a handful, and then I've gotten a little bit more consistent with it since your class. But I'm still, I mean, I have a 5-month-old, so I can't be 100% consistent at anything except for babies at this point.
Which is where your priority needs to be right now.
That's true.
For sure. That's not a bad thing. Yeah. You're doing, I mean, I'm really proud of you for everything that you're doing and how hard you're working to try and make sure that your kids have memories down that they can reflect on and go back to. And
Yep.
I just think it's so great that you're working hard to make sure that your kids have a different outcome than you. But also I want to make sure that our listeners know it's kind of a caution to them to make sure that we all, because I need to do it too, make sure that we have our photos accessible to our kids so that they can see them and know what they look like. Their full body, right?
Yeah. I have my head for all those years.
Yeah. It's an important thing. It's really it's so great to be able to hear your experience and then take a little bit from it and know that I need to do a better job. There are a lot of tools and ways that we can do this. Google Photos, like I announced on the last podcast or a couple podcasts ago, has it so that we can share photos and auto share. And so we can set up, photos of our kids to automatically share with them and an account with them so that they have access to see all of their photos and the progression of their life and how neat it is for them to be able to scroll through that. My girls have both taken time to do that, and maybe it's a girl thing versus a boy thing. My son's not as interested in it, but they love sitting down and going through their whole entire roll in Google Photos. So making sure that we just can figure out a way that they have access to that'll work for them. And that's what you and I have been talking about today, is some ways for you to get down those little stories and memories, because that's what kids love. And ways for you to be able to do that easily and quickly. And so we're coming up with some solutions for you.
Yeah.
And we'll see what else we can do. And I'll mention some after I have a few new apps and things like that when we're done recording, I'll mention to you, and then I'll also come back on the podcast and mention those as well. So thank you so much for being here today, Megan. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
I loved my time with Megan, and I am so grateful that she was willing to spontaneously record with me while we were Skyping. That was really great, and I'm so grateful that I was able to share her experiences and thoughts and ideas with all of you as well. One thing I wanted to talk about is that making our photos accessible to our kids does not mean that we have to have them all printed. Print isn't the only way that our kids these days can enjoy photos. I believe in printing. I really do. And I think it's a great thing. I love having my printed books around. But I don't believe that we need to do something with every single photo that we take. That's more of an old school thought process from those of us that were using film, because we were able to do something with every photo that we took. But I don't think that that's the case now. And I don't even believe that we need to either delete or do something with the photos that we take. I think we can keep them just fine and not have to delete them and not have to do anything else with them. There are other ways to have our photos accessible to our kids. If your kids have a device or a tablet or a smartphone, or you have one that they have access to, then it's easy to share albums through iOS, through the iOS Photos app. You can also share albums in Google Photos. Everyone in my family is set up on Google Photos, and we are an Apple family. And we airdrop photos to each other, and we use the shared albums. However, my husband, it only has 16 gigabytes of memory on his phone and is adamant that he wants to stay with it for as long as possible. I don't get it. But shared albums for iOS don't work for him because it eats up his memory. And so we can't share albums with him. So sharing albums in Google Photos works better for him, and it works better for everybody. And so that's what we do a lot. And then my kids will often, as I've shared before on previous podcasts, they will scroll through. And I even talked to Megan about it in that little clip about how they do scroll through their photos in Google Photos and look at them. I'm really looking forward to the auto share features that Google announced in May, where I can automatically share every photo of my daughter Samantha with her and my son Jacob with him, and then they'll just automatically have them. I don't have to do anything. It makes things really easy. And they have not been added yet, but they will hopefully be added, they said, within the next few months. So hopefully we'll be seeing those soon. One of the things that Megan asked me about was that she wanted to be able to access her Google Chat history and download it. She wants to have that documented because she and her husband would use that as text messaging and would often share funny things that the kids did. And so I suggested that she look into Google Takeout, which we did while we were chatting, and it does work for Google Chat. It downloads it as a JSON file, but there are ways, which is a programming language, there are different apps where you can upload the JSON files and it will convert it into a whole bunch of different other formats you can select. And so then you can have that if that's something that you're interested in having. Megan also wanted to have a way to export iMessages for the same reason, because her husband had moved over to iOS now, and so they're using iMessage. And if you're on a Mac, this is really easy to do because you do have iMessage on your Mac, and there's actually a way to export the iMessages from the iMessage window on a Mac. And so it's easy to do. However, if you're just an iOS user and maybe a PC user, it's a lot more difficult if you only have if the only Apple product you have is an iOS device. I haven't found anything, actually. I've tried a couple of things, not been happy with them, so I'm still looking. If anyone has any success with that, let us know. I think Megan would like to have it in a PDF format. That's what we talked about. I'm still looking. There are some paid things out there that are $40 to $70, I believe, for different programs that you can use on a PC. But I'm looking for something that's free because I would much rather see Megan and anyone else, any of you, myself included, spend that money on printing pages that we've created and getting those into books than spending it on a computer program that we're probably going to use once or twice. But I'll keep looking, and for sure I will update you when or if, I guess I should say, if I am able to find something that is successful. Megan asked me a question that I thought was probably one of the best questions I've ever had before. And I had to think about it. She asked me what my kids like to look at the most as far as memories go, because she's got younger kids, and right now she's feeling like she wants to document every single thing. And that's because of the lack of documentation from her own childhood, which you heard about. And so she really is worried that she's going overkill and putting a lot of pressure on herself to document every single thing. And so one of the things that I told her about that is that you don't have to document every single thing in the exact same way. And that's one of the things that I think is wonderful if we can get to the point where we can say, okay, I'm going to do chat books for these kinds of things. And I'm going to do, her social book for the social media stuff like she wants. She doesn't need to take all of that stuff from social media and then create individual pages in the Project Life app or in photo books or anything else. That's good enough to have it documented that way in that book. So that relieves a little bit of pressure. But to answer her question, I had to guess what my kids like the most out of all of the documenting that I've done, what they like to look back on and read the most. My guess was that they like the small moments and the funny stories the most. And I asked my kids just today what their thoughts on this were. And my son said that he likes to look back on the vacations and the funny stories. Those are his favorite things. And my older daughter said that she says that she likes remembering vacations and then her mission the most. And she's grateful for those things. She says that she doesn't care very much about the birthdays and the holidays and isn't really interested in looking back on those things at all. She said that she likes reading through funny stories from when she was younger and remembering the little things that she did with her friends and the things that happened at school and the things that she liked at that time and disliked at that time and that age. She also said that she liked her smash books. She did smash books for a few years as a way to document when she was in high school. And then she switched over to Project Life. And she said that she recently went through some of her smash books and was really excited about the things that she found in there, the papers and the ticket stubs. And she said that there were a lot of things that she found in there that were sentimental. And she was really happy that she had them in there. She said that she decided that she wasn't a big fan of the physical version of Project Life because it felt like it was a big chore and it took a lot of time to plan everything out and make sure that the pages, the front and the back, worked out okay and the orientation of the photos. And she said that it felt stressful to her. Now, with that in mind, she did complete, I think, 2 big 12 by 12 Project Life albums before she left on her mission, 2 or 3 before she left. And then she did several smash books as well while she was in high school. But I thought that was really interesting to hear their thoughts on what memories and things that they like looking back on the most. And I was really happy to hear that it's not the holidays and the birthdays, because we do have that documented, but I haven't been as good about documenting all of that stuff over the last several years. I do my December book that I create every year, but really that's more for me than it is for the kids. And I'm not sure I've ever seen them looking at one. Maybe when I first got it, they might have. But they do look at all of the other books. Often I will see them reading through the vacation books and reading through the books where they know funny stories are. So if you're wondering and you're thinking and you're trying to figure out how you're going to document things and you're feeling overwhelmed by all of the memories and stories that need to be told, I would say, that's 2 kids, one who's almost 21 and one who's 17. Their thoughts and opinions on it. But based on what I've heard from other people as well, it's the funny stories, it's the silly things, it's their likes and their dislikes. It's not necessarily, and for our family, of course, the vacations, which makes me happy because that is my favorite thing in the world to document, is vacations. Make sure that you're taking the time to document those stories and putting your time and energy in those areas. And I think part of it might be because kids do a great job remembering the Christmases and the birthdays on their own, but they don't know the stories about themselves when they were little and the words that they would say. While we were on vacation, we started talking and sharing different stories about each of our kids when they were younger, and they were dying laughing. at some of these stories, and they loved it. They loved every second of it. And often they will ask, especially my youngest right now will ask, tell me a funny story about me. Tell me a funny story about Sam. But she's never, ever asked me about a Christmas or a holiday or a birthday. Not once. Things to think about. Really, really good things to think about. Just where, and it makes me reevaluate where I'm spending my time documenting too, and not putting as much pressure on myself to get some of these stories told in an elaborate way that don't need to be told. So Megan talked briefly about her My Social book, which she showed to me on Skype, and it looks really amazing. And it did look like a textbook. I mean, it was big, it was thick, not big like height and width, but thick. It had a lot of pages in it, and it was about the size of a textbook. And the cover looked like a textbook, and she said that she wasn't as happy with the quality for it. And she said that there were some photos where the color is obviously off. And so she really wanted another solution, but it's really important to her that those conversations and comments are integrated. Those conversations and comments from Facebook are integrated. And that's really hard to find in a solution, in a book printing solution. My friend Katie, if you want to see some pictures of a My Social book, my friend Katie Nelson, who has been on the show before, has a blog post on her blog that is all about the My Social book that she did for her daughter. And I know that she did one for herself too. Fairly confident she did. I don't know if there's photos of that one up on her blog in that blog post. I will link to that blog post in the show notes, which you will be able to find at modernphotosolutions.com/podcast. But you can also, if you don't want to go to it that way, you can also, I just Googled scrapbook lady and then scrapbook lady, My Social book. And that was the first thing that came up, of course. So you can do it that way as well if that's easier for you. One of the apps that I ended up suggesting to Megan is the Day One app. And I have been researching this app. It's been around a long time. It's Mac and iOS. And I know that they are working on an Android app, and I saw on Twitter that they are accepting applications for testers. If you feel like that's something you can do. Usually when they are looking for a tester, they're looking for somebody that is qualified to be able to report bugs, notice bugs, and be able to report back on what steps led to that bug. So if that's not something that interests you or that you think you have the skill set for, don't worry about it at all, and I wouldn't apply. So it should be coming anyway, but it's been out on Mac and iOS for a long time. If you've been a long-time podcast listener of mine on different podcasts, you will remember that Peppermint talked about it, I'm pretty sure, shortly after it came out. I'm a latecomer on this one, and I'm just barely trying it out. I have been looking for a solution for busy moms because I have a couple of women in my life that have very young children, and they want a way to document, but they feel like they are already maxed. Their limits are, they're at their limits for things that they can do, but they want to be able to document. And so one of my friends said that she would really like to have an app where she could just text a photo or a quote and have it go in there, and then someday print up a book or not, or whatever. And Day One will do that. You can integrate almost anything with Day One. They're making it very easy to do it directly through their API and not have to have any other plugins. However, if it's not something that they're already integrating with natively in their API, then there are ways to connect to it through IFTTT, or it's now called, they changed their name. IFTTT changed their name to just IF, I believe. IFTTT stands for if this, then that, but I'm pretty sure it's just if now. They shortened it because IFTTT is confusing. Good choice for them to rebrand. But you can make recipes, and so how you set it up. And they have an app, and it's also through a web browser for Macs, PCs, whatever. You just go any web browser, go to their website, ifttt.com, sign up. And then for this, you could say, if I send a text message to IFTTT, automatically forward that text message to day one, because day one is integrated with if this, then that. There are a whole bunch of other things that you can integrate and add or have added automatically to day one as well for you, so that you don't have to do it, which is something that I love. I love automation. I love it. Love it. So if I was the mom of young kids, I would probably use this app just because there's so many ways to easily get information into it. It does integrate natively with Facebook and Twitter, and Twitter, I believe, and Instagram. And so it will pull in, if you set it up, once you set up the login credentials within day one, it will automatically pull those social media posts into day one. And what do you do with this? Okay, well, day one, you can export it to a PDF and get it printed at any book printing service that accepts PDFs, which Blurb is one that I'm aware of. And they also have just started their own book printing service as well. I've not tried it. I don't know anything about the quality. I will try it. I've just got to get more entries into day one in order to try it. But also, it's a way for you to save these memories and this information, and you can come back and document it later, more in depth if you want to. Or, like I said, just have it printed in a book as is, which is not a bad way to go. It will also integrate with your activity app, and it includes that activity, the weather, your location, all of that kind of stuff automatically into what they call the metadata of the post. It's kind of the hidden information in that journal entry. But one of the drawbacks of that is that metadata, not all of it is printed, which bothers me. I wish all of it was printed. They add maps for your location. In the app, you can see the maps. I could see how many steps I had taken that day, all kinds of cool things like that. However, when I export the PDF, it shows the weather, my location, the time and date, and I believe that is about it. And then any text, journaling, and images that I've added to it. It has a limit of 10 images per entry. So it definitely is more of a journaling app than trying to be a photo solution. It's data about you and your day and what you're doing, and gathers social media information for you as well. It's a great place to have all of that integrated and landing into one place to document your daily life, I think. They have added a dashboard app, or a widget, I guess is what it is. A widget that you can add to your dashboard for iOS. This is something that Android's had widgets for a really long time. But for iOS, I will explain in just a minute how to access this widget and how to use it. But it includes the map data whenever I tap this widget. And I love that it does that, and that it does that automatically. It's super great. It's a really powerful journaling and documenting app, and it's super fast and easy once you get it set up and start using it. I felt like it wasn't super intuitive and took a bit of tapping around to figure it out and get it set up. And Megan told me, she reported to me a similar experience. So let me know if you feel the same way. Download the app and try it. And if you feel like it's not super intuitive, I've been thinking about adding a short little walkthrough video tutorial to my site if that's something that people would want. So just let me know if you find it intuitive or not. Reach out to me on social media or shoot me an email or put a comment in the show notes of this show. Either way, any of those is great. Because if it is something that people would find helpful, I'd be happy to do that. I used this app day one. On our trip, I was testing several different travel journal apps. And this is the one that I ended up using the most because it was so easy and fast. And one of the main reasons that it was easy and fast is because of the dashboard. So the widgets in the dashboard. So let me explain to you. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but I'm sure there are just as many who do not. If you are on your home screen and you swipe right on your iOS device, you will see a list of things there that you can scroll up and down through. The date's going to be there, the day. You have a search box, and then you can scroll through those things there. All of those things that come up are widgets. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can tap Edit. And that is where you can go ahead and add widgets or delete widgets, change the order. If you tap on the hamburger icon on the right and hold it, you can drag the order of those. You can delete them by tapping on the red icon on the left. And you can even scroll down and add more widgets by tapping on the green plus, the green circle with the plus in it. So I went ahead and added the check-in, the day one check-in widget to that screen, and I put it on the top for while we were on vacation. And then what it does is when I go to that widget, and I just would swipe my screen, and that widget was right there on the top. And so I could just, there's a box right there, and you just tap it and to check in. And so I was able to check in one tap, and then it logs my location, it logs the weather, it logs the time and the date, and I can go back and then add details to that later, which I did. At the end of the day, I would go back in and just kind of make a list of things that we did. I was trying to test everything in there, so I was also adding photos. I was journaling a lot more on some of them. But I liked this app the most for a travel journal. And I think it would be super easy to use as a mom that has young kids that are growing fast and doing fun and crazy, silly things that I wanted to document. Because I could just go in there and check in, and then at the end of the day, make that part of my routine where I then went into the day one app. It actually, once you tap on the check-in, it will ask you if you want to open that entry. So you can go ahead and open that entry and make a couple of notes, or later on in the day, come back to that entry and add the details that you want to have added that you don't want to forget. That feature alone makes this app worth it to me to use for any kinds of documenting and journaling stuff that I want to do. The other apps that I tried, just so you know which ones I tried and didn't like for various reasons: Photomapo, Keep Tracks, Journey, Trip Journal, which is iOS and Android, and then Tripcast. Day one for me was just the easiest and the fastest to use. I will be doing more updates in the future, and probably what I'll end up doing is maybe some mini tutorials like I did on Instagram before. I'll do mini tutorials over there that seemed to work great, and people really liked it. So I think I'll probably be doing more of that, but adding more tips for travel, documenting, and things like that over on Instagram. So be sure to check that out. I've got to be better. I've got to get better about updating Facebook as much as I do Instagram and adding content in both places, because I know not everybody is in the same place. Not everybody is using Instagram as much as they are Facebook, or vice versa. And so I've got to do a better job of updating Facebook as much, because I feel like my Facebookers are kind of missing out, because there's a lot of stuff that I do post on Instagram. I've got to figure out a way also to be able to post those tutorials that are the swipe on Instagram, how to post those on Facebook. And it's probably just going to have to be like a collage or something like that. But I will figure it out, and I'm going to get better. We'll get there. I have a long list of projects that I want to get done this summer for work and for not for work. And I find that usually my ambitions are far greater than what I'm able to achieve during the summer, because I think things are going to be great and I'm going to have all this time because I don't have to run kids around as much. But the kids are home and they want my attention and they want to eat and things like that. So I don't get as much done as I think I'm going to usually in the summer. But hopefully I will get on top of some of this stuff, my social media flow especially. Okay, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you spending part of your day with me. I appreciate you being here. And if you know somebody who is suffering from photo overwhelm and might be ready to start conquering their photos, please share the free class with them, Photo Fabulous First Step, which is all about Google Photos and the cloud, where it is, what it is, all of that good stuff, and getting your photos automatically backed up. You can find that free class at modernphotosolutions.com/free. Have a great day today, and we will see you next time on Modern Photo Solutions.